What's up, and welcome to episode 15 of the Millennovator podcast, featuring the man behind the empire, podcast websites.
When I got to that, I was 24, 25. I earned about 140 grand for, 18 months, 2 years. And then I quit doing that. And the reason was I got bored. And I learned two lessons really quickly. Number one, in corporate, when he pulled me in and told me to take the highlights out. And number two, when I almost 10x my income, I realized that I didn't want the money. I would rather turn up at work and give a shit about what I was doing than have the money. And that's when I set up the business. That's when I set up the agency.
You're listening to the Millennovator podcast, where we host the most innovative millennial entrepreneurs, and you learn the secret tips, proven tricks, and profitable tools they have picked up from entrepreneurial infancy to straight up business empire, and every stage in between. And now, your hosts and money Millennovators, Jonathan and Will.
Give me the right now, go right down. I'm trying to sit it now, go right down. We trying to get it.
So I'm here with Will this morning, and
Bienvenue.
Oh my gosh, we're feeling pretty good about ourselves. Let's just be honest, Will, aren't we? You don't know what I'm talking about, do you?
It's early and it's not even bright outside yet. Is that why we feel good about ourselves?
We have recorded a podcast at 6 o'clock this morning.
Oh, I did have an idea. Huh?
What?
Yeah?
Yeah.
Nice.
So we are getting after it bright and early this morning.
Dark and early, actually.
Yeah, that's very true. I mean, it's like an hour and a half later, and it's just now getting light outside. But welcome to Millennovator. We are super excited to have you guys, and we are super excited about you getting to listen to Mark Asquith today.
Yeah, Mark, he's going to share with you 3 pivotal moments that led him to entrepreneurship, because Mark is from a very small town in a specific place in the world that I'll let you determine when you hear him. Actually, you've already heard him on the pre-roll, so you know that Mark is from England.
He's from England.
But Mark had 3 pivotal moments that led him into entrepreneurship, and he has one centralized idea as to why. And you'll find that out in a little while, and I think that a lot of you will relate with it. But it's very important to know that... Hold up. Do you have a website yet? Are you spending hundreds and hundreds of dollars to maintain that website? Or are you concerned about creating a website and dropping hundreds and hundreds of hours into creating it? Listen, I have created websites in nearly every single way possible. Unfortunately, the truth is all of them failed, except for one. As a result, I have created an ebook that will show you how to get a fully functioning site without spending thousands of dollars and hundreds of hours. Inside the ebook, you will learn how to build and launch your website in less than 24 hours for under $1 a day. Now you can download the ebook for free at millennovator.com/side hustle site launch. And for those detail police out there listening, you can find the details there too. All right, so I promised you we'd get back into today's episode, and let's do it. Let's dive into today's topic and interview together now. Mark started from nothing, so don't give yourself an excuse that you don't have what it takes.
Started from the bottom, and now we're here.
Yeah, we are. And that's crap. Don't let yourself tell yourself what you can and can't do. I want you to know that, and I want you to take that very serious, and I want you to remember that when listening to today's episode with Mark. Mark founded a podcast called Excellence Expected, and Mark does free coaching every single Friday.
Mm-hmm. I think 9 Eastern time, I think you said.
Yeah, that's fantastic coaching, and has built really a tribe around that. And then he launched podcast websites not long after, as you'll find in the interview, launching his own podcast. But Mark knows what he's talking about. I've been to 2 conferences this year that Mark and I have linked up. Mark's been a speaker both times. The rooms have been packed. I'm talking about to the gills. People are overflowing to hear this guy speak. So you are in for a treat today just to get about 30 minutes, 25 minutes worth of an interview with Mark. It really is going to be an awesome time. I hope you're ready for the interview. Jonathan, you ready to listen to it again?
Let's get it.
All right. I am sitting here, as I always do, looking at this bearded man, Jonathan Werner.
Don't hate.
And I've got another bearded man on the phone, a little bit of ways away, Mr. Mark Asquith. Mark, how you doing this morning?
I'm good, thank you, man. My beard's probably not as impressive, if I'm honest. It's a bit of a pathetic beard, but we get by.
Yeah, it is. I saw you last week in Dallas, but you're doing other things on top of the beard, so I understand that.
You've got a busy life outside of the beard.
Yeah,
It is November now, so
it is November, so maybe I could finally grow an actual mustache. That's about the length so that I'll
I
grow.
wouldn't hold your breath on that.
Also suggest not investing anything in that because that may not happen.
So, Mark, tell us a little bit about who you are today, your entrepreneurial journey, and where it's led you today.
I've just taken another bit of a tweak, I guess, in that kind of journey. It's been an interesting one. Only last month, no, the month before, because we're in November now, aren't we? Good Lord. I stopped my agency. I actually sort of left my agency, the agency that I built up for the last 10 years, design, brand, and digital agency. So that's actually really fresh to me. I stopped doing that so I can focus on podcast websites and my own Excellence Expected brand, which kind of work really nicely together. So that's been a bit of a shift. So that's what I'm doing today. I help podcasters succeed. And then with Excellence Expected, I basically help solo entrepreneurs stop feeling lost and create businesses that they love. So that's what I'm up to today.
Wow. Mark, is that a congratulations? Is that a bit of nerves there? How do you feel about that, leaving?
Yeah, it's good, man. It was a very conscious decision. I think I've been ramping up to it for a while now. A lot of people probably won't know this. As you said, I get out to a lot of conferences, saw you guys twice this year in as many months, which was great at Podcast Movement and at Dallas at FinCon. And what most people probably don't know is that the podcast website is business. Even though it's grown really, really well, we've got a team across the world. We've built a really solid business that employs a good chunk of people. That actually was only a hobby for myself and Kieran up until 2 months ago. So it's actually really interesting because I wouldn't say there are any nerves, but I think it's an exciting change for us to be able to focus on that. I mean, I got tired of running an agency. I got tired of pitching for digital work, and regardless whether it was $100,000 job or whether it was a $10,000 job, the pitching process is just boring. So I just got out of that, and it's actually really exciting to be able to not have to compromise, which is certainly for the last couple of years I was doing two things, which was problematic. So no, it's good, man. Honestly, I'm really enjoying it. I think it's awesome, and the traction that we've gained, and I know Kieran feels the same with it, and everyone else involved feels the same with it. What we've managed to get done just in this last 2 months is just testament to actually making the change. So no nerves. It's all good.
Rock and roll.
That's great, man.
That's very similar. In episode 13, we interviewed the author of the book Pivot, and she talks about different risk zones, and she calls one of them the stretch zone, right? And that's the zone where you are just fired up. You've got a bit of nerves, but you're just fired up. That's where the creativity, that's where the magic happens.
It's kind of the sweet spot.
Yeah, and I think that's where you are. And you had gotten to the stagnation zone with the agency, and you got up and left. And I commend you, man. Kudos. That's awesome.
Yeah. Hey, Mark, I did want to ask you a question we always like to ask. Let's go kind of rewind a little bit before everything we just talked about.
Before the beard.
Before the beard. Man, that was a long time ago for me. I'm not sure about you, Mark, but what led you into entrepreneurship? So everybody has such a unique story about how they got into it, and we'd love for you to share yours.
Am I allowed to swear?
You can say whatever you want.
Yes, this is my kind of podcast. I basically got tired of working for dicks. I just got tired of working for dicks. Like I did the usual corporate story. Everyone does this thing where they're like, yeah, been through corporate. But I did it really early. So I come from this really little town in the north of England called Barnsley, where really the only things that you can do are you either do some kind of manual work, which, Will, you've seen me, I'm not cut for manual work. The other option is you kind of work in a factory. And I was like, well, not really keen on this one. This is not for me. Then the other two options are you go to university or you work in an office. Now I was just always this poor kid. I didn't really have that much money as a kid. And so university always felt a little bit out of reach for me. And I never really knew what I wanted to do when I was a kid. My grandma always said that, and she still says it. She says, you get bored too easily. I'm like, well, yeah, maybe. So I ended up getting this office job. Like I blagged my way into this office job when I was about 18. I walked in with this really bad, this is in 2001. I walked in with this like a bad Chinese dragon tie on and these sneakers. I just didn't have anything. And the funny thing is, to buy that tie, I actually took the price of something that was in a sale for £1 and put the sale sticker on the tie so that I could afford it.
Wow.
And then blagged it at the checkout. I blagged that it was £1. They were like, "No, it's £10." I was like, "No, it's not. Look, there's a sticker that says it's £1." So
Creativity.
yeah, definitely, and/or stealing, whatever. And so I ended up getting this job anyway, and it was this corporate job, and I thought I'd made it. I was on like 12k a year in 2001. I thought I'd made it. I was like, "This is awesome. Fuck, this is unbelievable. I'm earning £800 a month. This is crazy." And then got into that kind of corporate zone and did all that sort of stuff. And then I moved. I was living away at the time when I got that job, and I moved back home into the town that I was born in. Moved back to be closer to family and swapped jobs. Got another corporate job for another 3k per year. And I was like, "This is amazing." So I'm 3 years into corporate at this point. I'm maybe sort of, I don't know, just touching 21. About a year into that second job, so 3 years into my corporate life, I was like, "Wait a second. Why people are just telling me to do stuff, and I don't know why the hell I'm doing it." I remember one day, bear in mind this is 2001, and you can laugh. Everyone's going to laugh at this. I turned up one day with highlights in my hair to work to this corporate job.
Yes.
Yeah, oh, they looked awesome. Honestly, they looked so awesome. And I got pulled into the office by the manager. He was like, "Mike, I'm going to ask you to get your hair dyed back to your natural color, or cut the highlights out." I was like, "What?" And so he said, "Yeah, we can't have that." I said, "Well, listen, Paul, if that's how you want to roll, that's cool. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to sit here while you call Christine, who sits next to me, and tell her to get her highlights taken out." And he was like, "Mark, all right, fair play, off you go." Like wild stuff.
Nice.
And I had I had the highlights for ages. Now the reason I tell that story is that was a bit of a catalyst for me. That was me thinking, like, what has this dickhead just told me that for? And the reason is because someone told him to tell me, and then someone told that guy to tell him to tell me. And I was like, what are we all doing trading our life for this just idiocy? Like, there is no reason for that. There is absolutely no reason for that other than someone has told you to say that. So I wasn't customer facing. I was back office. No one saw me. No clients. No one saw me. So there was legitimately no reason. So at that point, I thought, "Do you know what? I'm out of here." And I got another corporate job in another city, which is like 20 minutes from my house. So, and I turned up at this job on day one, got there thinking this is going to be brilliant. It's a change. It's going to be exciting. I've got another 3k per year. Which at the time I was on a really good salary. This is going to sound so weird to everyone listening now, but back in 2001, like 18.5k for a 21-year-old was really, really good. It's terrible now, but it was really good. So I turned up at this job, and I basically realized that I was doing the exact same thing. Someone basically said to me, "Look, go and do this thing, this boring task on day one." And I was like, "What am I doing? I've just traded one job for another boring job to get an extra 3k. What am I doing?" So I left corporate on that day. On the first day of that job, I went to the manager and just said, "Listen, man, I'm out of here. I've not let anyone down because I've only been here 6 hours. And
Nice.
no one's relying on me, so I'm done. I'm out of here. I'm gone." What I did then was absolutely nothing at all. I literally spoke to my dad. I was like, "Dad, listen, man, I need some ideas." And he was an electrician. He still is. And he's always had his own business ever since I can remember, for the last 25, 30 years. And he said, "Well, just come with me and carry some stuff. I'll teach you some electrics." And randomly, last night I was doing some electrics really randomly that I used to do 15 years ago. And he said to me, "Look, you can do what you want as long as you turn up on time, as long as you work hard, and as long as we get the job done to a high standard. That's it. We're good. We can just get through this, and we'll earn good money, and we'll do well." And we did. I worked with him for about 6 months. Bear in mind, this is age 22. Managed to blag my way into a digital training contract with UK Ministry of Defence, so like really high level security clearance. And
Wow.
yeah, I went from earning 18.5k to earning about 140 grand a year.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
At age 22, 23. Now, here's the interesting thing with that. And I know this is a really long-winded answer to your question, but I think it's important
No,
for
that's
people to...
good.
People need to get this. When I got to that, I was 24, 25 when I stopped doing that. And I earned about 140 grand for, I don't know, 18 months, 2 years. And then I quit doing that. And the reason was I got bored again. And I learned 2 lessons really quickly. Number 1, in corporate, when he pulled me in and told me to take the highlights out. And number 2, when I basically almost 10x my income, I realized that I didn't want the money. I would rather turn up at work and give a shit about what I was doing than have the money. I would rather have much less money and care about what I did. And that's when I set up the business. That's when I set up the agency. And I quit, literally went back to earning nothing and screwed my first business up. I'd saved 20 grand and thought, well, you know what? I can live for a year on 20 grand. I'll set up a little design agency because I wanted to learn how to build websites for a band that I was in. So I learned how to build websites and then set up this first ever design agency that I run into the ground probably 9 months after I started it. Literally, this thing was just decimated because I didn't know how to do business. Again, the third kind of pivotal point was I realized when I screwed that first iteration of the business up that I was still thinking like a corporate. I was still had my head in this corporate box. The second time I did it, which was with Hacksaw, which is the agency that I've just left, last month, 10 years later, I realized that at that point it was all right to just do it your way, to be myself, to actually embrace the weirdness and the quirkiness and the attitude and the kind of, the everything from the naivety to the cynicism to the bolshiness to the helpfulness, everything, all the little bits that make up my personality.
Right. That's the beauty of being an entrepreneur, right? You can put your touch on it.
Yeah, exactly. And this is, back to the very, very, very first point that I made. I made a very conscious decision at that point. So this is 6 years after I started my corporate job. 6 years later, when I set up Hacksaw, which was the second version of an agency that I'd started, I made a very conscious decision not to work with dicks. Because that's what I've been doing for so long. So that's what got me into entrepreneurship. And the second that I started to embrace, actually, it's all right to be a bit weird and tell people you like DC Comics and, have a few drinks with clients and you don't have to be this kind of quote unquote professional person. It was a massive game changer, and I haven't worn a tie since. I've not worn a tie since.
I think a lot of people, Mark, they've got to find themselves before they can run and manage a team and an identity within that business. A lot of people do struggle with, I've got a great product, but it never gets off the ground, or my service is rock star, right? But there's no you inside of that. People buy you. I think that many people out there side hustling need to realize that is, unless you're flipping something online that takes you out of it. People buy you and who you are and your story and how you transition them, right?
Yeah, I think you're right. Unless people are flipping things online, unless people are even flipping things offline, so like a house or whatever that might be, people do buy you. People buy the personality. And, there's that old marketing cliche, which is people buy from people. But ultimately, we never put ourselves out there, whether it's a side hustle, whether it's your main business. We're so stuck in this professionalism, and I'm doing that in air quotes, because professionalism is largely bullshit. Professionalism is nothing more than turning up at the time you say you're going to turn up and doing the thing you say you're going to do. That is all professionalism is. There's nothing more to it than that. If people buy from people, we never market ourselves as people. We're always marketing the product, the features, even the benefits of the product, which of course you've got to do. But we never taught really to market our own little kind of uniqueness, our own little bits of quirkiness, our own little foibles, the things that are going to draw you guys to me and me to you guys. Those things, those little bonds that you build over the tiniest details. No one's going to appreciate that until they know about that. So why not market that? Why not let that out? And that was a mistake I made with the first business. Was I was marketing like a quote unquote business instead of marketing like a person. And we get all this marketing stuff drummed into us, which is people buy from people, know, like, trust, attention, interest, desire, action, all these kind of cheesy cliches. But the cliches exist for a reason. So I don't understand why we forget about them when we start a business. And I think it's because no one tells us that it's all right to be ourselves. Like whoever says to you it's all right to turn up. I every single day wear a very similar set of clothes. I've normally got an Excellence Expected or a Podcast Websites t-shirt on. I've either got a hoodie on that's branded, and I've usually just got my baseball cap on, which I had on last week as well. I even had on when I was speaking at FinCon. I had the branded t-shirt and I had my baseball cap on. But if I was to go to someone and pitch to them in a certain type of arena, go to a corporate and pitch them some brand work, that would be frowned upon.
Right.
Everyone assumes that that's the way to do business. Is you've got to do what other people want. Whereas I argue with that. I would say, well, actually, maybe they're just not your people. They're just not your people. Find your people that are accepting of that and actually like it. So yeah, no one tells you that it's all right to be yourself.
No doubt. That's a really great point in focusing on where to begin, right? So for so many people, they've got a great service idea, they've got a great product, and a lot of people make an excuse. I don't have a website. I don't have this. I don't have that. I don't have capital. I can't do this. I can't do that. I've never been in this arena before. I don't have the confidence. What do you say to that kind of stuff? Where do you begin, Mark, when you start growing a side hustle empire and you've got a full-time job? Where did you begin?
You've got to understand what you want. And what I mean by that is you've got to understand how you want to feel. So I wrote a blog post a while ago, which was be what you want to be without knowing what you want to do. And ultimately, it's about how you want to feel in your life. No one knows what they want to do because things change. Some days I want to go out and play golf. Sometimes I want to spend all day in the gym. Sometimes I want to spend all day playing Xbox. Sometimes I want to talk to people. Sometimes I don't. Sometimes I want different things. And the big challenge that then comes is that people pursue things or people pursue outcomes, which is great. You've got to do those things. You have to do those things. But I believe they are not the end game. The end game is how you want to feel. So what I mean by that is I just know that my ultimate goal, which thankfully was achieved a while ago, is just to be, financially independent and not ever have anyone telling me where I need to be and when I need to be there. They're the only things that I want to feel. That is it. Everything else has to support those things. That's how I want to feel. How I do that, what I want to do to get there. Well, before it was the agency, now it's podcast websites and Excellence Expected. I'm hoping that stays the same for the next 10 years, but who knows? In 7-8 years, it might be something different. As long as I feel the same way, as long as I'm happy in that pursuit. So I think you've got to think about that. If you lack the confidence, if you lack that direction, ask yourself, what do I want to feel like? What do I want to actually wake up feeling like? And what do I want to go to bed feeling like? How do I want the days to pan out? Not what tasks have I got to get through? Not, how do I want to build this business? Like that all comes when you ask yourself just a very simple question. If a decision is if you're presented with a decision and you know how you want to feel in the future, the goals when it comes to that side of things. If a decision comes your way, all you need to do is say, well, look, if I do this thing, if I say yes to this decision, does that get me one step closer to feeling how I want to feel? If it's a yes, you do it. If it's a no, you don't. And that's a really simple decision-making process, which in turn builds your confidence, which in turn shows you that you can make progress towards that goal without saying yes to everything and without the fear of letting people down. So you've got to think a lot further, and you've got to think almost a lot more abstract than just here's what I want to build. You've got to think, how do I want to feel in 5, 10, 15, 20 years?
Yeah, that's good. That's a question my wife asks anybody when she first meets them. Mark, you mentioned Excellence Expected and podcast websites, and I know we're running kind of short on time, and I would hate to get all the way through this without talking about them. So can you briefly tell us a little bit about both of those? I know podcast websites has been so key to us.
Well, and I want to know too, Mark, how did you transform and pivot from Excellence Expected into podcast websites? Because like you said, the business is just a vehicle to get you to your goal.
Yeah, it's a good question. To be honest, that wasn't really a pivot. The pivot was more the agency Hacksaw into podcast websites. Excellence Expected supports podcast websites, really. And I'll explain that. So I'll go back in time a little bit. Hacksaw was a typical design, brand, and digital agency where we'd pitch for work, we'd get the work, we'd fulfill the work, and we'd basically get paid. And it was all right. We had fun. We worked on some amazing clients and, really big clients that right down to your plumbers and your local businesses. Now, I always had a problem with that kind of model insofar as you had to pitch for the work and then it was up to those people to say whether you were worthy or not of getting the work, which is just bullshit. If you do what you do, you have to be good at it. Otherwise, you shouldn't be in the room. And that always was a bone of contention. Because remember, I've got this problem with authority. I've got this problem with having bosses. So that person saying, well, I'm an IT manager, so I'm not going to commission you for a brand job because I don't think you're good enough. That's like me saying, okay, I'm a plumber, so I'm not going to commission you to be a singer because I don't think you're good enough.
Yeah.
It's totally wild-eyed and way off. It's just silly. So that pissed me off, and it made me think this is crazy. Now, at the point that I was thinking that, I was doing two things. One, I was setting up my own podcast. Now, my own podcast, Excellence Expected version 1, was basically just me kind of interviewing people, the classic interviewing people. It's not that at the minute, and it's not like that anymore. But at the beginning, it was just a podcast. And it was a way for me to get my own voice out there and really answer the questions that people kept asking me privately. Like, people were asking me advice, and I was thinking, do you know what? I keep answering these questions like 10 times a week. I should probably just record it. So I started the show. Now, that came at the same time as I was getting a little bit disenchanted with the process of getting work at Hacksaw. Right in that perfect mix, right in that kind of eye of the storm, I realized, do you know what? I've had to set this podcast up, and I'm lucky because I understand how web works. Now, if you want to set a podcast up, learning the podcasting bit is pretty easy, but you're never going to be a successful podcaster unless you learn the other stuff, which is how to build a brand, how to build a website, how to generate income and traffic, all this other stuff. And I was lucky, I'd done it. But I know there were so many people that didn't know that. So these new podcasters were coming in and saying, right, okay, one, I've got to learn podcasting. Holy shit, that's a big mammoth task. And number two, I'm going to get disenchanted with my podcast because I've not got the time, the ability, or the willingness to learn this other stuff. So right in this kind of perfect bit of timing, I just said to Kieran, listen, man, I've got an idea. I know JLD from ep015. I've been on his show. We struck it off. Got an idea. I'm going to speak to him. Do you want in? And that was the idea for podcast websites. And that's how it came about, because I started Excellence Expected. And Excellence Expected is only 3 months older than podcast websites. They're only 3 or 4 years. 2 or 3 years old, each of them. And the reason for that is that they both started at around the same time. And the distinction is that Excellence Expected helps the solo entrepreneurs find strategy, implement it quickly, and build the businesses that they love. And a lot of those, well, they want to market themselves via podcasts, which obviously then leads through to them using podcast websites. So they are very, very complementary of each other. And like I said, the big pivot was leaving Hacksaw and swapping out, taking out this kind of digital service that you were pitching for work for, and swapping that out for a digital service that is always recurred income, so that we can do more for our members. We design to our members now as part of the membership is you get 3 or 7 hours free design time. The interesting thing with that is where Hacksaw made its money from design, podcast websites doesn't. So we can make you more successful by giving you things that no one else can give you. So it's a very interesting pitch, actually. It's a very interesting business that we continue to build.
Well, and it sounds like too, you had a problem that you saw when you were podcasting and you realized, hold on a second, there's nothing out there for this. And unlike a lot of people who said, I'm overwhelmed, I don't have the resources, I can't do this, I can't do that. You partnered up with somebody, you have a strength, they have strengths, and you merged and you're killing it, man. You're crushing it. So one last thing, Mark, and those of you who are listening to the show and are like, oh, this Mark Aswith guy, I got to check his beard out because he sounds like he knows what he's talking about. Head over to the show notes at millennovator.com /ep015. And you will find a few links. One of those is to Mark's Excellence Expected. The other is to podcast websites. Mark, where can people hit you up, man? What are you most active on? What's your channel?
That makes sense. Well, the easiest way, actually, is to probably come and join one of the free coaching sessions I do every single Friday, 4 p.m. UK, 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific. So if any of you guys have got a problem, if you just want help or some advice, you can just go to excellence-expected.com /free coaching. And that is just legit free coaching every single week, guaranteed.
And I gotta have a little plug for that. I have been on those calls, Mark. They're fantastic. Those of you who need it, hop on there. The guy knows what he's talking about. Plus, he sounds great too.
Yeah, fun to listen to.
Oh, you sweet talkers.
Mark, it's been a pleasure, man. Hope to see you around town soon.
Yeah, definitely. We'll be around. I'm always over there seeing you guys. I can't seem to, number one, get rid of you, Will, and two, get back into England. I can't seem to do either of those things.
That's become apparent to me recently. So thanks again for being on, man. I know you're a busy guy, and we appreciate the time.
No, I love it, guys. Thank you so much. Whatever you need, give me a shout. And honestly, it's been a pleasure. Thank you.
That man right there is a product of implementing what you say you're going to do, right? Like Mark said, I don't want to work with people who are like this. Now he doesn't.
He does not do that.
And I think that's powerful to think, lay your goals out personally before you decide this entrepreneurship thing is going to get me this, that. Really and truly, those may be benefits, but they might not align with what you want out of life. Okay.
True.
And this whole quote unquote working thing, right? That's the majority of our lives. So you dang well better enjoy what you're doing, and it better align with your goals.
Oh, for sure.
And I like what Mark said, Jonathan. I've never thought about it in that light, and I want to harp back on that really quickly. Setting your goals and saying your goals out loud first, and then working backwards to get there. So how can your business help you accomplish that?
Yeah, that's great. And I think that's something that even we need to do a better job of. And, a lot of times you can talk about where you want to be, but do you really sit down and take the time to plan out those goals and go through them on a daily basis? Because really that's the only way. I know I have a buddy in Panama City who he talks about that a lot. Have you written down your goals today? Have you written down your goals today? And while a lot of times you might just pass over that nonchalantly and just think, oh, that's not a big deal, really going over those goals on a daily, weekly, monthly basis is really how you get there. And that's something Mark's done. I mean, he figured out where he wanted to go. And I think one more thing that I wanted to point out for Mark is that was really cool. Talks about not everybody's your people, right? I think people in business want to say that, everybody, I'm just out here to go to everybody. But no, Mark has a niche people that he's going for, number one.
Yeah.
But he also has a group of people that he knows he doesn't want to work with.
Yeah.
And again, now that he has his own business, he can be very specific on the people that he wants working with him. And he's got a pretty good amount of people working for him now.
No doubt he can get weird. And I'll be the first person to tell you, Kieran, who helped Mark co-found with JLD, Kieran is weird. Shout out to Kieran. Love the guy. But these guys are just fun people. They're goofy. They're fun. You heard Mark say, like, he's doing a pitch. He's going to wear his baseball cap and his podcast website's t-shirt, and I've seen him do that. I know that is who he is. Okay, so just be yourself within your business and allow your goals and who you want to be to shine through what you're doing. Again, remember, people do buy people. Now, if you're out there, like we said, flipping a product, people aren't buying that for you. Okay, but if you're offering a service, advice, if you're teaching, if you're educating, people are buying you. Sell yourself and sell the transformation that you are going to have on someone else.
It's good. It's good right there.
Thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to call your mother and tell that woman that you love her. And if you love the show almost as much, subscribe to us on iTunes and leave us a sweet review. We're definitely not ashamed to blush. Now, go forward and implement what you learned from today's episode into your business. We cannot wait to personally hear your story of success and replicate it 1,000 times over.
Give me the mic,